welcome to the next in our series on the 7 letters to the churches in Revelation. And today we're looking at the letter to the church of Philadelphia. So that's in Revelation chapter 3. Let's read that together now. To the angel of the church in Philadelphia write, the words of the Holy One, the true One, who has the key of David, who opens and no one will shut, who shuts and no one opens. I know your works. Behold, I have set before you an open door, which no one is able to shut. I know that you have but little power, and yet you have kept my word and have not denied my name. Behold, I will make those of the synagogue of Satan, who say that they are Jews but are not, and lie. Behold, I will make them come and bow down before your feet, and they will learn that I have loved you. Because you have kept my word about patient endurance, I will keep you from the hour of trial that is coming on the whole world, to try those who dwell on the earth. I am coming soon. Hold fast what you have, so that no one may seize your crown. The one who conquers, I will make him a pillar in the temple of my God. Never shall he go out of it. And I will write on him the name of my God, and the name of the city of my God, the new Jerusalem, which comes down from my God out of heaven, and my own new name. He who has an ear, let him hear what the Spirit says to the churches. Well, just some background to the city of Philadelphia. The name means brotherly love, and the founder was particularly devoted to his brother. Something that wouldn't have happened often in the ancient world. In fact, doesn't often happen today as well. But it was a prosperous first century city based on agriculture. It was built up against a mountainside, but overlooked this huge fertile plain. And it was noted for its winemaking especially, but also for earthquakes. It was devastated by an earthquake about 40 or 50 years before John wrote the letter there. And it's also known for its temples, its idol worship. It was known as the Little Athens. It had that nickname. That imagery of, the earthquake and the temples helps us understand some of the imagery in the letter that John is writing, or that Jesus is writing. And there's 3 important lessons for us to grab hold of in this little letter. One is the authority of Jesus. His authority is on full display in this letter. Then the importance of the role of the church, what must the church do, and then the reward that Jesus gives to his church. And the authority of Jesus is on full display. In verse 7, he's the Holy One and the True One. Those are magnificent titles that come out of the Old Testament that actually refer to God himself. And Jesus has the key of David, who opens and no one will shut. And so he's got the ability to make things happen. And if he decides on something to happen, there's nothing that can gainsay that. It will happen. The key of David would have been given to the steward of his house, and he would have been allowed to open the door, and he would have decided who came in and who was left outside. As a successor to David's kingdom, Jesus has the authority to give access not just to the city of Jerusalem as it was, but access to the new Jerusalem, where true life and true blessing and God's true people will live in peace and harmony, truly ruled by him and living in obedience to him. In verse 8, Jesus has opened a door. He says, I know your works. Behold, I have set before you an open door, which no one is able to shut. That is imagery of a gospel opportunity. So Paul uses that imagery of an open door in 1 Corinthians. He says this, 1 Corinthians 16, I hope to spend some time with you, he's saying to the church at Corinth, if the Lord permits, but I will stay on at Ephesus until Pentecost, because a great door for effective work has opened to me, and there are many who oppose me. And so Jesus is opening a door. He's making a gospel opportunity open for the church at Philadelphia, and he wants them to take that opportunity. And he knows, and the promise is, because Jesus is opening the door, no one can shut it. So he's got that authority. When he makes opportunity, it's just the church's responsibility to grab it, and then we'll see what their role is in just a minute. And then thirdly, Jesus will cause their oppressors to repent before them in verse 9. Behold, I will make those of the synagogue of Satan, so that's his Jewish people, who say that they are Jews, but in actual fact are not, they're liars. I will make them come and bow down before your feet, and they will learn that I have loved you. And this is striking imagery from Psalm 2 in particular, where God's enemies come and bow down before the Lord's anointed, before the Messiah. And it's deeply ironic that it's the Jews who are oppressing God's people, and God's people now defined around who the Messiah is, around the identity of Jesus. So it's no longer good enough to be an ethnic Jew and to be claiming to be the people of God. You've got to come and worship Jesus and acknowledge him as who he is, the Messiah, the Son of David in particular in this passage. And so at some point, either in this life or the next, Jesus is going to show the oppressors of his church that they were in the wrong. And that his church, his people, are vindicated for believing who Jesus says he is, the Messiah. What is the role of the church in all of this? Well, it's to keep on holding on, to keep staying true to Christ, to keep staying true to his word. So that's what he says in verse 8 and verse 10. I know your works, he says. And interesting, they've got a little bit of power. So they're a small church with little influence. But you've kept my word and have not denied my name. And then in verse 10, because you've kept my word with patience and endurance, I will keep you. So there's keeping hold of God's word. That's an interesting word. It means to guard or to observe or to be careful about what you're doing. And so you're careful, you're guarding the words of Christ, you're holding on to him himself, but in particular, you're holding on to his words, his message, either the message of the gospel that Jesus is the Christ, or literally the messages that are contained in the gospels or the letters. And so whatever is written about Christ, it's important that the church is holding on to that and keeping true to that. Patient endurance in verse 10, that's it's bearing up under immense pressure. It's bearing up underneath something. Someone is pushing you down, it's oppressing you, but you keep on standing up and you keep on standing strong. That's that imagery of a pillar that will come in a little bit later. So all the earthquakes in the area would just shatter the buildings and the pillars would fall down. Although every now and then in these ancient ruins you still see a pillar standing up. And in fact, they must have taken that to heart, because they built a church in about the 400s or 500s dedicated to St. John. And you can see the amazing pillars that they created, and probably taken from this letter to say that they're there to stay and nothing can shake them. So the church is to stay fast, to keep the words of Christ, to keep loyal to him essentially, to hold fast, to not let go, to hold up with patience, to endure with patience whatever trials are coming their way. And when they do this, they will be effective. And so in verse 8, I've set before you an open door, which no one is able to shut, even though you have little power. I know that you have but little power, or even though you've got a small amount of power, yet you have kept my word, and I have not, and you have not denied my name. And so Jesus will open a door, and here's this small, insignificant, non-influential little church being oppressed by probably the majority. The Jews would have numbered in the thousands. This church would have been 20, 30, 40, maximum 80, maximum 100, something in the line of the size of St. Mark's. And because they're holding on to Christ, because they're keeping his word, his promises, and building their lives on that, they will be effective. Even though they have little power, God will make them, Jesus will make them his tool for effective change in that area. And then there are these lovely words of encouragement, because Jesus is going to give these lovely rewards to his church that keeps on holding on and keeps on guarding his word, or keeps to his word, who stays loyal to him. He will let them know that they are loved by him. So that's in verse 9. I will make them come and bow down before your feet, and they will learn that I have loved you. And that's a quote from Malachi, where God says, Esau I've loved, Jacob I've loved, but Esau I've hated. indicating who his real people are. And so here again, it's that ironic reversal that God's real people are now not the ethnic Jews, but this new international multi-ethnic community that he's establishing as long as they stay true and loyal to Christ. They are the ones that are now loved by God. And because they keep to Christ, because they stay loyal to Christ, he will stay loyal to them. Verse 10, because you have kept my word about patient endurance, because you're enduring with patience, I will keep you from the hour of trial that is coming on the whole world. And so Jesus will guard his church during times of trial and testing. As long as they're staying true to him, he will be faithful and stay true to them. And that's the significant thing in trials and temptations, because it's so easy to give up, especially when it gets hard, because now, are we sure that Jesus is going to stay true to his word and stay loyal to us? It doesn't look like that. It doesn't feel like that. But God's promise is yes. We stay true to him, he will stay true to us and guard and keep us for eternity. And so that's the other promises that he makes. He will give them a crown, verse 11, to the one who conquers. I'm coming soon, he says. Hold fast what you have so that no one may seize your crown. So you hold fast to Jesus, and people are trying to take your glory away, your reward away. And no, all you have to do is hold on to Jesus, and then no one will be able to take the crown out of your hand or that's coming your way. And that's a lovely picture of reward, isn't it? We often don't think of receiving rewards from Christ, but he's the King of Kings and Lord of Lords. And so kings of kings, what they do in reward is give crowns, smaller crowns, to their loyal servants. They reward them with land and property and title, and Jesus is promising that very thing here. So we're given a crown, and then the last reward is to be made into a pillar, which is maybe a strange image, but that's from verse 11. The one who conquers, I will make him a pillar in the temple of my God. And so there's that imagery of the earthquake not being able to shake this pillar that is being created of nothing on earth. And most of these things are sent by Jesus anyway, to wake a world up to the truth of who he is. So it's not sent directly to us. But of course, all the things that happen in the world can shake our faith. And God is saying, Jesus is saying, if you stay true to me, I will make you stand fast like a pillar. Like this big, it's the imagery of the pillars outside Solomon's temple. Big and strong and not being able to be shaken. And on these pillars are often in pagan temples as well. And they would write these inscriptions on them. And the inscriptions that his people will get, that Jesus' people will get, is the name of God, the name of Jerusalem, and Jesus' own name. Now what that means is that's imagery of who you belong to. To have someone's name, they would ask, who do you belong to? Which city do you belong to? In fact, the very word citizen means which city do you belong to? And so Christians can stand proudly and say, no, we belong to the New Jerusalem, to this city that's coming out of heaven, the city of God. So you don't get a more powerful city than that. Rome was a powerful city ruled by the Caesars, and so you had a certain amount of status. But we belong to a city that's far greater, far more important, and will last forever. The city of God coming down out of heaven. It's just that we have to wait for it for a little while before we realize that reality. And so that's the thing that takes faith. That's the thing that takes holding on. And that's the thing that takes keeping on and never letting go. So ultimately, this is a letter of encouragement to keep on keeping on. The Christian walk is a walk of endurance. It's not a short sprint. We stay true to Christ no matter what comes our way, and he will stay true to us. We will receive his name. We will belong to him, and that's the safest place to be, with the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords.